Hi there, I'm Camille with Heal with Camille, and today we are talking about midlife crisis. You've all heard that term. What does it really mean? We kind of think, oh, people just go crazy and they get a red sports car and start going to titty bars and stuff like that. And most of the time we hear about men having midlife crisis, but lately I'm watching women kind of drop off a cliff. It's incredible. But what midlife crisis really is a era that we all go through. It's kind of charted in, usually happens around 38 to 43. That's the time frame. And when you're starting to go through midlife crisis, you really want freedom, whatever that looks like for you. I got to be free. I got to be me. And so if you get into the mind of someone who's going through a midlife crisis, they're burned out. They're tired of something, and they don't quit loving their children, and maybe they don't quit loving their spouse or their family, but they really, really want a new self. They want to identify themselves newly. They want to feel different. They want to express themselves different. And this is the era where, people go get tattoos or piercings, or they'll buy something a little radical to drive. It's not so traditional or conservative. They tend to go a little crazy. That's true. But they're looking truly for a new expression of themselves. So how do you do this without blowing up your life? I got some people right now, 18, 20-year marriage, and they really just want freedom. All they can think about is freedom. So they're going out drinking and partying with young girlfriends, and they're maybe, looking like idiots and getting penis pancakes and just kind of crazy stuff. When before, a year ago, 5 years ago, they would have never done that. They were very traditional. They were religious. They were, obedient to a standard, a high standard. And they just need to try on a whole new life. And so, this is when affairs can happen. You can get caught up in a new relationship, which, look, the first 120 days, romance is a drug. So you're high from somebody new wanting you and seeing you and experiencing something new. But look, reality will set in. Eventually reality sets in. And so midlife crisis is, oh my gosh, I just blew my life up sometimes. I had a client today, and her husband, it's cliche, right? Had an affair with his secretary, and she's 20 years his junior. And so he had an affair with her, broke up his family. She was, knew the whole family, but this cliche is, again, he had an affair with the secretary, got her pregnant. Now he's married to her with a little baby, and she's 20 years his junior. So he's the adult. He's the one paying for everything and getting up in the middle of the night, changing the diapers, giving him baba, all these things because he's the adult. And this she's probably, I want to say mid-20s. She needs him. She needs him to help her. But he just blew up the 30-year relationship and the family and the adult children. And, this girl's the age of one of his children. So doesn't look good. He's mad because the world knows that he did this, but he did this. And, you want to go, what happened to this person? What's going on, with another client? She's, 20-year marriage, and she's just feeling very cooped up. She's been a mother, hasn't had a big career, and she's not making dinners, and she's on her phone all the time. And she got caught up in some sort of online sexcapade kind of thing, and literally wanted a separation and wanted to get a divorce. That's not the reason you do that. Meaning, this is fantasy. Online relationships are fantasy. You don't know them. This isn't real yet until you meet and you kind of live in the same vicinity and you know each other. But you can't get to know someone really that well online. You have to, at some point, you have to meet and get to know people. But I feel like people, when that midlife crisis era hits them, they're really seeking something new for themselves. And if I would have asked both of these people a couple of years ago, would you see yourself doing this? Absolutely not. They can't even imagine it. So it's a phenomenon. And I think it's a phenomenon most people go through. But I'm suggesting a different expression for her, which is, how about going to school? How about getting some sort of education? You need to learn that you can do something and be productive and earn money and be independent that way. Because if she gets divorced, she's not really ever had a job. Well, there's not going to be enough money for him to continue to take care of the household for her and him and the 4 children. So it really is, incumbent upon her to have to get a job. She's going to have to work now. And these things we don't think about when we're going through midlife crisis. We are just feeling, I got to be me. I got to get free. And that freedom is all these people can think about. And when that happens, it really can blow up your life. It can destroy everything you've created. And then what does that do to the family? And then when you come to your senses, it usually is about a 3-year window. So within 3 years, wow, what did I walk away from? What did I lose? Why did I do this? What was wrong with me? Nothing's wrong with you. You're just going through a need for growth. You really need to grow in that era. And a lot of times when people are going through midlife crisis, they've always wanted to be someone else. They wanted to do something, and maybe they got married young, and so they didn't get to go to school. They were a young parent, or they didn't have a lot of money, so they had to get a job, but they never really were fulfilled in their career. And so they want something new for themselves. And look, that doesn't have to mean that you throw your whole life away to have a new expression of yourself. So taking classes, getting a new career, getting a new skill set, cutting your hair, buying a new wardrobe, going to the gym, working out, taking better care of yourself. Usually when you're late 30s to early 40s, the kids are, at an age that they don't have to have you all the time. You have more freedom. You can maybe develop yourself more. But I really feel like if people started to develop themselves mentally and, taking classes and learning something new about themselves and trying new things on, new skills, they probably wouldn't blow up their family. But if people haven't ever had that independence and some sort of a expression that they're proud of, they tend to get themselves in trouble with affairs and stuff like that. So I want people to realize that late 30s, early 40s is going to be a midlife crisis era. And again, everyone's going to go through one of these things. And some people go through the loss of their parents, like their parents pass away. But usually about that age, you've been in a career for a good amount of time. And if you're a little stir crazy, or if the kids don't need you as much, something seems to lift off of you. And so now you're kind of going, okay, something's new. I need something different. I need something to change. And so you get, shaken up a little bit, but you can change without having to walk away from every relationship you've ever had or look horrible or bad, Look, I think especially online affairs, first of all, they're not real. They're not real until they're real. And these online affairs are a distraction. It's like a shot of whiskey. People personalize them, of course. If you're married to someone who's having an online affair or a physical affair, that destroys a relationship. It does. It destroys the trust. And even the spouse looks at them and says, "Who are you? I would never have thought this of you." This beautiful woman who her husband owns a business, owns a company, and then had an affair with the secretary. Like, who is he? Like, she doesn't recognize him. She can't believe that he did this. He had many secretaries before her. Why this one? Well, what was he going through that he needed a new expression? I think he was inundated. He had the same routine for older children like he had adult children. And I find this fascinating because I think people have this sense they want to start over. And so there's something I feel like he wanted to start over with. He had a partner, and he felt trapped with his partner, and a business partner I'm talking about. And then he had a wife, beautiful lady, sweet lady, but he felt hemmed in by the partnership. So the secretary told him, "I can create a business around that. We can create our own business. We can leave him in the dust." So they kind of commiserated against the business partner and got together, and now she's running the business with him. And the children are like, they worked there. They all were contributing to the business. They feel like they're going to lose their inheritance, or everything's getting put in her name now, which was by design, of course. He can't see it. Isn't that the truth? Like when someone's doing this midlife crisis era, or they're having an affair and they're with someone they wouldn't normally pick, they can't see how they look from the outside in. And in their mind, I need this. This is new. This is something I've always wanted, they think. But I'll tell you, I really feel like people are ready to grow. And so when you're ready to grow, growth is painful. Growth isn't easy when you hit midlife crisis moments. And so if you run and you start drinking or escaping, a lot of people leave religions at this time, by the way. They leave their church. They leave their structure. Or they leave home. They run away. They start doing things they would not normally do. That's one indication that person's in a midlife crisis, is if, they were very staunch religious, and then all of a sudden now they're partying and, having risky sex or whatever. That's not their nature. But people just start doing radical different things when they're in the midlife crisis era. Look, and there's something to this. I mean, people really do need a full, different life. Then the most extreme people, if you are really staunch religious, or, I'm all in, I'm only mom, and we have a traditional marriage, and, my kids are everything, and I've never had a career, and you've never had anything outside of the home. It's almost like when that era hits you, man, it's really an extreme swing the other way. And it's like you become the opposite version of yourself. It's interesting. That's what I would say is the more extreme obsessed you are about your life as you have it now. When this midlife crisis era hits, you will swing the opposite way. I know people that actually became swingers. They were very religious, and they're out of religion, and they actually stayed together. One of them had an affair, and they stayed together through the affair, but both of them became swingers, which means they're both kind of having affairs. They just know about it, and they're okay with it. And they're in the same room while they're cheating. So that's what swingers do, is they kind of have, they swap partners, et cetera. You know that. But this is what some people have to do to try to stay together, is, go along with it. I'm not suggesting that's what you do, but I've had some clients that they stay together and they go through the same cycles of, starting over, midlife crisis, swinging, whatever. But know that midlife crisis is real. It hits us all late 30s to early mid 40s. And I do think that we do have some control. We should have some self-control over what we do. But it is going to be a time in your life when you're going to need to have a different expression of yourself. And my number one recommendation is take classes. Educate yourself, develop your mind, develop your brain. If there's a new relationship that comes in, be clean about it. Try to not get a little drunk on it and go a little batshit crazy. I've just watched people really hit a wall, and they burn their life to the ground. And I don't know many clients that I've watched and helped go through that really haven't come back to me and said, I regret all of that. What was wrong with me? You were going through I'll call it a Uranus transit. The planet Uranus hits you at late 30s, and everyone goes through the cycle of needing to newly experience themselves. There's a book called Passages. I think it's written in the 70s, a really good book. And I remember that there were eras. We all lived in a certain era. Like there was the, motherhood era. And, when we're little, it was our childhood era. And then there's a work era. There's a power era. But we all live in eras. And some of these areas that they're chunks of time, 10, 20, 30 years. And then it's over. It's like when your kids move out, you have empty nest era. Now what? Now who are you going to be? So the midlife crisis era is having to newly define yourself and figure out who you really want to be in this next era. So I think hitting 40s, that's when you look at people get a little crazy when they go into hitting the number 40. So when that happens, figure out what you're going to learn or study or get yourself in training and classes so that you're maybe not going crazy and walking away from your entire life that you just built. It really is sad. I've seen empires crumble, financial empires. People have a lot. They cut it in half and walk away, I'm working with a couple right now that were married 20 years and she's kind of trying to find a new expression of herself, and they haven't had the healthiest marriage. He's been a difficult husband, been hard on her. And so she's kind of like, Uncle, I can't take anymore. I need to just figure out me. And I just want freedom. I want fun. I want freedom. I don't care. And I still want to be a mom, but she's never really worked. And so, well, girl, you got to figure out how you're going to be independent without him. I know you want out. You say you want out, but what you really want is a totally different expression of yourself. And, how I've been helping this couple is encouraging them to be as honest as possible, as real as possible. Because if you're not honest and you can't be yourself inside of the relationship, then you feel trapped. You feel like you aren't going to be yourself, and you're not yourself. So she's been brutally honest, and it's probably been the hardest month of this guy's life. He's realized, I could really lose her. She's serious. She's done with the crap I've been dealing her, and she can't take it anymore. So it has woke him up, and I think it's been a gift. He realizes that he's harmed her and let his family harm her. So there's legitimate pain here. There's legitimate stuff that she's got to deal with. But having her run away and just go back shit crazy like she's been doing for a month has not helped her either. But she really is kind of escaping her life, and she's got to put it back together in a way that she's got some autonomy, some self-respect, some independence, and she's earning her own way. Look, and I tell her, you got to be independent. Something happens to your man, something happens to your woman, you got to be able to move on. You got to be able to survive those losses. And right now she's very dependent upon him. But they've been able to, stay together. They've separated, so they've got an apartment that they're rotating in and out of, but the kids are not bouncing back and forth. They're staying in the house, and they really, really are being rigorous and authentic with each other. The truth is a magic elixir. And when couples come to see me and they're lying to each other, hiding things from each other, or they've just become, cynical, towards each other. They know what their partner's going to think and say, and they don't want to deal with them anymore. They're not trying anymore. They just become resigned and cynical. When that stuff happens, we're no longer honest with each other. People say, well, he doesn't listen anyway, so why should I share my feelings? And she may say, I just don't trust him anyway. He gets mad when I get upset. Yeah, people just quit talking. They quit being friends, And what I'm trying to do with this couple, and I'm being successful so far, is I'm getting them back to where they really are able to be friends. So if you look at the nature of love with a friend, being friends, our friends are idiots. We bail them out of jail. If they get in a fight, we have their back. We jump in with them, and we don't judge our friends, right? We don't have all these expectations with our friends. There can be more of an unconditional love with our friends. But that's what's missing in a lot of relationships is the ability to still be friends and be married and accept each other and, not judge each other. But when you get married, there seems to be this expectation. Well, you're my wife. You're my husband. There's expectations with that, how it's supposed to look, how it's supposed to be. But with our buddies, we're free. We're more free. So when she says she wants fun, okay, she's having more fun with him, I might add, but she also wants freedom. I think she can have freedom and find freedom for herself where she can be powerful in her own right. Say yes, say no, be authentic. She's not needing him. So that to me would be freedom is not needing him. But the goal is not to blow up the family, just for her to, feel like she can get out and be free. Her mother had 4 husbands. So it's, she's coming by some of this honestly, but I'm pointing out to her as a child of divorced parents, what did that do to her and her siblings? And mom thought freedom was another husband, a new man. But that really isn't freedom. You can still have freedom in any situation. It's how you're framing it for yourself. I think what she wants is to know herself differently. And she thinks she's got to get away and just go be independent to find that. But the work really is in finding your freedom and finding your true voice, even if you're inside of a relationship. Now they've separated, which has given her some space and him some space. But I do feel like there can be freedom and you can stay married. And if you don't want to stay married, that's fine too. But it just takes such a toll on the children. And no matter what happens, I say slow boat that. Like if you can continue to communicate, always lead with love. Always be committed to the family unit and the co-parent and the children. Like make sure they don't go through a lot of damage if you can help it. It's interesting. It's been interesting this month. I've had so many couples break up over affairs with like friends of their partners. So it's kind of like, your best friend screwing your wife kind of thing. It's insane to me. I've seen that. So I don't know what's in the water, but I really have had 6. This is, 2 yesterday. Just random people. I don't know them. They come in, that these are new clients and they're dealing with betrayal, like big betrayal from 2 people, their spouse and their best friend. And I see themes in my practice. And so people come in and they go through similar things. But that kind of betrayal is really, really tough to recover from. But you can. And what I'm telling people is, look, if you've been betrayed by your spouse and your best friend, that's like something setting you free. And I wouldn't stay in those kind of situations because that's not, you got to stop it. You got to pull away. You got to end that cycle. But if things haven't gone too far and it's about just trying to have each other's back and try and be more friends instead of expectations. And if you can do that, if you can actually have unconditional love for your partner, that creates a space of freedom, I think. And when you can accept them as they are, warts and all, and you want the best for them, whatever that best is, whether it's with you or not with you, when you want that and you have that love for your spouse like that, that really can truly create a magical relationship. And I just here to tell you, the truth sets us free. When you finally tell the truth to your spouse or your friend or whatever, when you finally tell the truth, you feel free. And look, sometimes that's hard for people to hear. And we say, oh, I can't say that. Oh, I feel guilty. I just can't live like that. I feel too guilty. But you're robbing that person. You're babying that person. You're saying they can't handle the truth. I'm pleasantly surprised by most people when they hear some hard truth, how they handle it. They aren't losing their shit. They're not beating somebody up. They're not going crazy. We think people can't handle something. And will it be hard for them? Sure. But I think ultimately, maybe you can't handle how they see you. Because if you're betraying your partner and you've got a lie you've been living and you tell the truth, there's a risk. Like they may reject you and they may leave you leave the relationship altogether, or they might be able to listen and say, tell me more about that. Why didn't you tell me this? If you were mad at me, why couldn't you share this? Because I didn't trust our relationship that much. When people are starting to tell the truth, it's been fascinating to me to see how these couples really do start becoming more friends. I'm rambling a little bit. I've had a lot of clients this week going through a lot of betrayal. But sometimes that betrayal is the wake up call the relationship needs to really get back on track, the real track. And it breaks people out of the autopilot rut. Sometimes chaos creates that. So you really can see what you want and you start fighting for what you really want. This other couple that, the truth's been told, man, it has really woke both of them up, especially the husband. And he is a transformed guy. He's given up porn. And this has been a month now. It's not just a week or so. But he said this is as long as he's ever gone without porn. And his countenance has changed. His eye contact is amazing. His eyes are clear. He's able to really tune in to her. And so she's kind of getting a whole different version of him because she told the truth of what she was feeling and going through. And he decided to step into his authentic self. And he's now fighting for his family. He's fighting for his wife. He doesn't want to lose her. And he realizes he's been a loser. He's been doing stupid things. Sometimes that we get caught up doing our own self-soothing crap. And he's done with that. He wants to really engage with her and figure this out. And he's fighting for this marriage. I love seeing that. That's impressive. It's kind of stopped her from running, I think. And he's not mad. He's understanding. He's humbled. He realizes what he's done was wrong. And he can see that she needs to know herself powerfully. And he wants her to be empowered and happy. So that friendship is coming back around in this relationship. And it really is magical. And no matter what happens, they've got 4 kids. They're committed to their kids being okay. They're not going to hurt each other. They're not going to go through legal ugly battle. If they do get divorced, it'll be pleasant. It'll leave with love. They'll leave with love. And it'll be fair. It'll be fair. So those are my recommendations. Is if you're inauthentic, you're unhappy because you feel like you're trapped in a relationship you can't be yourself with. And if you find someone you can be yourself with, it's because you're not lying to them. You're authentic with them. And if you're afraid you're going to be judged inside of your relationship, you probably will. You might be. They have expectations of you. Sure. Maybe you're punished, something like that. I believe all that's real. But I also know the freedom people get when they just start choosing to stop living a lie and they just get authentic and honest with themselves and others. And then we see what people are made of. Are they really going to love us unconditionally? Do they love us? Can they forgive us? It's going to test their love for sure. But sometimes people are amazed by what happens after a betrayal. Even in new relationships, until something gets difficult or gritty or someone has to, either fight for one or the other, or, they have to, like a kid may not like the girlfriend, right? So maybe the kid's mean to the girlfriend. The dad has to say, whoa, you're not doing that. You're going to, have respect or have your manners. But until there's some sort of conflict or some sort of issue to overcome in a relationship, any new relationship, it doesn't really become real until there's something that you have to deal with each other. So don't rob each other of the rigor or the authenticity. And people step over issues and maybe they brought something up they want to talk about, but they can't get through to them. So why bother? They just quit talking. You quit each other. You kind of quit. You quit. And so you're no longer expressing yourself authentically. That is where the problem is. You're holding back. You're holding in. And you're not going to be able to do that forever. And that's where I think a lot of midlife crisis energy comes in, by the way, is when you've been living a lie and ignoring your feelings and staying on that, that wheel, like that rat on a wheel, just go, go, go. And if you've been living a life like that, midlife crisis comes and shakes you out of that rut because you're in a rut. That's if you're in pain, you're in some sort of robotic energy. You can't keep living that way. Anyway, that's my conversation about midlife crisis. It's a real thing. And people have their own reasons. I don't judge it. I think people get themselves, withheld and they're not themselves and they need an expression of themselves. I understand all that. There's a healthier way to do it than to go have an affair. And because again, that's just a shot of whiskey. That's just running to escape and running for some sort of pleasure that's not permanent and it's not productive. It doesn't make more money. It doesn't help them anyway. It just makes them feel better for the moment. And then reality will set in unless you get her pregnant. And then you're, stuck with a new baby at, I think, 60. So anyway, if any of this stuff I'm talking about can help you or you're going through a situation, I would love to be able to help you through it. So please contact me on my website. It's healwithkimile.com, HEAL with KIMILE.com. Hey, thanks. Bye-bye.